Hello and welcome to another edition of The Morning Serve. Emma Lawrence alongside Casey Delacqua. Casey, Isla Tomljanovic back in action tonight. Can't wait for that. Facing Jelena Ostapenko, and we know they have had a little bit of a feud in the past. Can you just remind everyone what that was all about?
Yeah, so back in at Wimbledon in 2021, there was a little bit of tension. There was actually a lot of tension throughout the whole match. And at the end of the match, when they shook hands, there was a few words exchanged. I think Isla felt a little bit disrespected, and good on her, she spoke up, but it kind of led to a bit of an exchange in words. So seems like they've resolved it, but we'll soon see when they get out on court and, and they fight it out again.
Isla said she's passed it in the press conferences, but she has to say that. Do we actually believe her, or is there a little part of her that might still be inside?
Well, let's put it this way. I think she's going to want to win so bad. I think, look, it's when you've had a bit of a disagreement with a player, like it's of course it's in the back of your mind, but I think what Isla needs to do is focus on process and think about what she does well. Because if she tries and gets caught up too much in that, because Jelena Ostapenko is that type of player, if you get sucked into her antics, it puts you off your game. So I think she's really got to hone in and focus on what she does well, and then kind of let Jelena Ostapenko do her thing.
It wasn't just with Isla either. Jelena Ostapenko does seem to be quite divisive on tour. Why do you think that is?
Look, I think it's just her personality, and she's even divisive with the Hawkeye electronic line calling system. I don't know anyone that questions the Hawkeye electronic line calling as much as Ostapenko. She's just got that fiery white line fever attitude, and look, it served her well. She's a Grand Slam champion, but as I said, you've got to... In tennis, it's a bit of game of chess, and you really got to put that out of your mind as an opponent. But yeah, look, I think she's going to question calls. She will potentially argue with the umpire, but that is part of her game style. That's what she does. So you, as an opponent, you do expect that when you play her.
Do you think, in general, overall, in terms of the women's game, it is good to have a villain of sorts?
Yeah, look, I think it's just important that players show their personalities. Obviously, we want them to be respectful. We want them to have good sportsmanship. We want all of that. But as we've seen with characters like Nick Kyrgios and, Ash Barty's got her own personality, I think it's important to be able to let those players shine through. And with the Netflix series Breakpoint, we've also seen a little bit of insight into these players, and I actually think that's really good for the game. So yeah, I do think it's important.
And in terms of the match itself, how does Isla get the job done this evening?
Well, look, I think the biggest thing for me is that Isla's got to believe in herself. She is such a good player. She's obviously been through periods of her career where she's had injuries, and it has been tough for her, but ultimately I believe her game is good enough to beat an Ostapenko, even though Ostapenko's playing well. So for me, a lot of it comes down to belief. Her backhand cross-court is beautiful. She can play that shot all day. She does have to serve well because Ostapenko returns extremely well. But other than that, if she can just really believe, I do believe she could get through it.
Let's talk about Emma Raducanu, the 2021 US Open champion. Since that, though, hasn't made it past a second round. What's happened in a sense, and what do you put that drop in form down to?
Yeah, look, I think it's great, firstly, to see Raducanu back on tour. I think the break from injury and having those wrist surgery is actually a good thing for someone like Emma. I think she needed a forced maybe break just to reflect upon maybe what she's already achieved in the sport, which is pretty incredible, winning a slam at the age that she did. I think just getting back out on court is really going to be good for her in terms of just having that break. She's a really intelligent young woman. So, look, I think the form was due to body. I do think she needs to find a team around her and keep some stability within her team. She's had a few coach changes since that final and since that Grand Slam win. So a bit of stability, I think, will also help her.
If she does manage to find that stability, do you think she can go on to win another Grand Slam?
I do, because I don't think, and same with Ostapenko and a lot of the women that have perhaps just won one, I don't think you have the capacity to win one and not win another. So I think a lot of things have got to fall right. But I do believe that Emma Raducanu, she's still so young. If she gets her body right, she gets a good team around her, and she moves. She's one of the best movers on the women's game. I do think she will eventually win another one.
Alrighty, let's talk about Thanasi Kokkinakis. What an epic five-setter that was in his opening round, and said sometimes he has the mental focus of a 3-year-old, I believe was the exact quote, or it was close to that at least. What do you love about Kokkinakis, and do you think that would have taken a lot out of him heading into this second round match against Grigor Dimitrov?
Well, I like that he's honest. I like that he can recognise the fact that perhaps in some of his matches he comes in and out of matches, and that's purely a mentality. Over the length of 5 sets for the men's game, it's such an important skill to be able to play 5-set tennis and not lose focus. So look, I think Thanasi did a fantastic job getting through. I think the crowd really helped him. I think he served really well, but he's going to have to maintain a bit more focus if he wants to win his next match.
Do you back him to get the job done? I mean, it's a tough assignment up against Dimitrov.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I definitely back Thanasi. I think he's got to serve well. I think he's got to, maintain his focus, as we've spoken about. I think he's got to look to come forward where possible. I think he's got to do things perfectly, but not only that, he's got to sustain that over the length of 3 sets. But yeah, I do. I think the win that he's had, that first round win, sometimes that frees you as a player when you get through a match like he just got through. I think that also, frees you and opens you up to playing some better tennis. So let's hope anyway.
Does it almost lift a weight off your shoulders as well, particularly given he probably wasn't in the best form coming in, or not that we'd have expected in previous years anyway?
Yeah, he even said he didn't have a great end of season last year. He probably had some not great memories of last year losing to Andy Murray, at 4 a.m. in the morning or whatever it was. So I think there was probably a few factors. So I think the kind of monkeys off his back in a sense that he's got that match. That was a big win for him to get through. So I think he can just now go and play free, and maybe that's a bit dangerous.
Do you think in the back of his mind, in a sense, that match against Andy Murray, it's a famous one, no one will ever forget that, it goes till 4 a.m. and he genuinely had so many chances to wrap it up and couldn't get the job done, and now similar situation, second round, is there an element at all of that playing on his mind?
Yeah, look, I think definitely in that match a couple of days ago, that would have played on his mind 100%. He would have been thinking about the previous year and the outcome, but I think having the win can often just relieve that thought and relieve that pressure, like, I can do it. And so for him to get through that 5 sets the other day was absolutely critical in not only this tournament, but I think for Thanasi as he grows as a tennis player.
Now, Max Purcell also in action. He got the job done over Casper Ruud at the back end of last year. What have you seen from Max Purcell that you think, maybe he can make it 2 from 2 against Casper?
Look, I'm impressed with Max's competitiveness. I'm impressed the way that he goes about his tennis. He's very disciplined. He's very focused. When I see him overseas, he's in the gym, he's on the practice court. He loves playing doubles. He loves competing. And I think that's a really good sign, and he's got such good attitude. So, look, I think there's no reason why he potentially couldn't do it again, but I think he's going to have to lift another level, and obviously over 5 sets, I think it'll be probably a bit of a different scenario for him.
And you see Casper Ruud as a different player to when they last met, or even to this time that we saw from Casper last year?
Yeah, I do. I do think that Casper is in really good form. I feel like seeing him play through the United Cup, I did actually go and meet him at the airport when he arrived into Australia as well, and I just got this sense that he was in a really good place. He'd had a really good off-season. His body is healthy. So Casper is a top 10 player. We know he's a Grand Slam finalist. He's that kind of next level, and when he's in good form, I do think it's going to be tough for Max, but that being the underdog in Australia, again, you just never know.
He'll have the crowd behind him, that's for sure, and he's in a sense could become a bit of a cult hero, don't you think? Because he's got the long flowing locks, he's got a bit of swagger and a bit of confidence. Do you think he's got that potential to gather that support and be a cult hero?
Yeah, look, I think he's, again, when we speak about personality and we speak about different characters on tour, we've got to embrace everyone's different personality. And for Max, I did see his post-match interview as well, and you could see that sense of You know, just excitement, but just, I guess, straightforwardness in the way that he speaks. He's got a great mullet. Even my kids have mullets, so I think that's probably a bit of a common thread. And yeah, I do think that he could have a bit of a following. And maybe it's the mullet, maybe it's his personality, but I think he's probably already got a few more fans from his win the other day.
Yeah, long live the mullet, that is for sure. Right. Last but not least, let's talk about Alexander Zverev. Since he's been here, and I guess over the last few weeks and months, there's been a lot of chat about the assault charges back home, but given it's still a topic in the press conferences, do you think it has the potential to distract him at all from the task at hand on court?
I actually don't think so. No. I don't think at all, because it's been going on for quite a while now. So I think it's something that he's dealt with for a long time, and he seems to be, as we know, the form that he's been in. I'm not sure that it's actually too much of a distraction.
And interesting that other players have also been asked about it here, and whether it's fair or not that Zverev is here, and on the leadership committees as well. But do you think it's fair that others get asked about it?
Yeah, look, I think that's tough. Yeah. I think it's pretty tough, and I'm sure a lot of the players will probably shut it down pretty quickly, because it's probably not something or ideal that they want to get involved with. So I don't think, if it's not really their place to comment, I'd be surprised if they would be.
All right, Casey, appreciate your time as always, and we'll be backing the Aussies all the way this evening. But for everyone else, we'll see you again tomorrow for another edition of The Morning Serve.
Wide World of Sports is your home of the Australian Open.
With highlights of every match of the AO, the on-court interviews, and every day with the Morning Serve, you'll be ahead of the game.
So click that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing this Australian Open.